When driving the winding roads of Chianti, nestled in the rolling hills between Florence and Siena, living la dolce vita, you might see an imposing rooster statue. In fact, you might see many of them. Back home, looking for a bottle of Italian wine to bring back your fond memories of the trip, you may also find that rooster on several bottles. What is the story behind this ubiquitous bird? Hello, enophiles. Today, I'm sharing the fascinating legend behind the bird's importance to the area. And while this story is not true, it has some roots in history, and its symbol has been adopted to distinguish certain wines. So grab your favorite beverage and cheers the like button. It goes something like this. During the Middle Ages, the two city-states of Florence and Siena were embroiled in a long, bloody battle. Eventually, both sides conceded that an arrangement must be made to prevent more bloodshed. The best thing to do would be to divide the land between them in half, so each side would have an equal share and a clear border separating them. An interesting idea was proposed, and it was sold as a fair method to determine the middle point between the two cities. Each city would choose a knight and a horse. The knights would start at the edge of their respective cities. On the chosen day, they would wake at the same time, roused from slumber by their respective rooster, mount their horse, and ride towards the other city. Where they met would be determined to be the center, and the border would be drawn from that point. This was an attractive idea to which both sides agreed, but not because they thought it was fair, but rather because each side saw ways they believed they could exploit it and find an edge to gain more land. Both sides believed that they had the best knight and the fastest horse, and that could give them a slight advantage. This may allow one side to gain a little more land than the other, but it was unlikely to create a large impact, and so each side continued to scheme as the day approached. In Siena, great care was taken to ensure that the knight and the horse were in their absolute best condition. Suddenly, an idea materialized, a way to get a strong advantage. Whichever side woke first would have the biggest advantage and could hopefully claim a larger stake of land. The best way to do this would be to choose their finest rooster and attend to its every need, ensuring that it too was at its best condition. They chose a stunning white rooster for the job. It would be well fed and well rested, waking early and with great energy would quickly rouse the knight. In Florence, it was much the same. The finest knight and the finest horse were prepared diligently to be at their absolute sharpest. The Florentines also chanced upon the idea of waking up early for a much stronger edge, so they chose a gaunt black cockerel to rise to the challenge. And they had a different idea, though, as to how to motivate the rooster to wake the knight early. They thought that if they fed the rooster very little the few days leading up to the date, this now irritable bird with a newly foul temper from an empty stomach would create quite a ruckus very early in the morning. The night before, both encampments organized feasts to prepare those selected. In Siena, they danced and drank and celebrated, wanting to ensure that the night was filled with the confidence of his people and would dash earlier and faster than any Florentine knight ever could. In Florence, the atmosphere was quite different. A palpable tension hung in the air. They hoped they would successfully gain more land, but what if this gamble they had made had the opposite effect? As the evening wore on, the knights retired to their tents to finally rest before the morning. In Florence, before the sun even broke, the rooster began to crow loudly and repeatedly. The knight did not hesitate and rushed to ready himself and his horse so as not to waste a single moment. He did not allow himself to have any happiness over the early start because he did not know if the Sienese had started even earlier. He leaped onto his steed, dug his heels in hard, and flew towards Siena, praying he was successful as his horse kicked up a cloud of dust behind them before they vanished from sight of the encampment. He finally met the other night at the castle of Fonterratulli. It was here that a pact was signed and the border was officially drawn. It was just a few kilometers from Siena. Florence ended up with a majority of the land, and the Black Rooster was celebrated, eventually becoming a symbol of the region. Legend aside, the Black Rooster, or Gallo Nero, is tied back to Chianti as far back as the 14th century, when Florence created a political military group, La Lega del Chianti, to govern and defend the region of Chianti. The League's coat of arms included the Gallo Nero against a yellow background. In the 16th century, the rooster status as an emblem of Chianti was exalted when artist Giorgio Vasari painted the allegory of Chianti on one of the ceilings in Palazzo Vecchio in Florence. He described his work like this: "That, Lord, is Chianti, with the rivers of the Pesa and the Elsa, with its horns full of fruit, and at their feet a Bacchus of more mature age for the excellent wines of that land. And in the distance I have portrayed Castellina, Rada, and Broglio with their illustrious ones, and the coat of arms in the shield held by that young man representing Chianti is a black rooster on a yellow field." While the rooster was associated with Chianti, it wasn't associated directly with wine production there until the 18th century. An important catalyst was in 1716 when Cosimo III de' Medici, the Grand Duke of Tuscany, officially defined the borders of the wine region of Chianti, making it the first demarcated wine region in the world. In 1924, a consortium was formed, and the Black Rooster was chosen as the symbol. Today, it is known as the Chianti Classico Wine Consortium, and it is the oldest wine consortium in Italy. In 2005, the rooster emblem moved from a symbol of the consortium to part of the government-approved labeling of every bottle of Chianti Classico visible on the neck of the bottle. It is meant to be an easily identified mark of quality, assuring the consumer that this is a good bottle to purchase. Chianti Classico is a delimited region within Chianti, which is generally better suited to producing fine wines than the much larger region it sits in. Additionally, wines that bear this denomination must also adhere to stricter laws regarding wine production than the greater Chianti area, such as increased minimum alcohol requirements and a longer period before being able to release bottles. Finally, in 2013, the rooster emblem on bottles was changed to make it stand out better, and it moved from the neck to a broader choice by the winemaker, such as the front or back labels. That's the story of the Black Rooster. While the tale of the race between the two knights is merely a legend, the Black Rooster has become an enduring symbol of the Chianti region and its wines. While we focus on how the Gallo Nero is used as a mark of a quality bottle of wine, it is so much more in the area, and it can be found as large metal statues in piazzas to adorning all types of trinkets in local shops. So the next time you raise a glass of Chianti, take a moment to appreciate the rich history and tradition behind this iconic symbol. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell icon so you don't miss a single video. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.